Coming up on this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society, we speedrun the Super Mario Oreo game. It's dangerous to go alone, so the Nintendo Cartridge Society goes with ya. Welcome to Nintendo Cartridge Society. Awoo! My name is Patrick Ellers, and that howl that you hear is my co-host, Mark Mitchell. We got a good show for you today. We're going to be talking about the news from the week, including a new I wrote VGC. I wrote NGC. That's not right. VGC report about, you guessed it, the next new Nintendo hardware. And then on Thursday, we're doing a The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom spoiler-filled discussion with special guest Matt Apodaca. But Mark, in the meantime, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I feel like we've talked about this before, so forgive me. But have you always been a Patrick or like have you ever been known as a Pat or a Patty or like has there ever been like any like variations?
There of course have been variations. You can't have a name like Patrick and not be occasionally referred to as either Pat or Patty. But it is not often. I maybe in like 4th or 5th grade was like, no, I'm Patrick. Like that's and kind of like asserted that.
Mm-hmm.
So any friends that I had through like middle school or high school that knew me from before would occasionally still call me Pat. I don't really think I talk to anyone now that, I mean, unless it's like, the exterminator at work who comes once a month, like he calls me Pat.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, he's an exterminator. He doesn't have time for the full name.
He does. Look, there are a lot of, the office is done by the LA River. There are rats. Okay. He's busy. I don't want him taking up any time saying Rick.
I love that you and the exterminator are on short name basis.
Well, here's the thing. Can I blow your mind? His name? Patrick.
I love it. What do you call him?
I call him Pat as well, but I think he goes by Patrick.
Oh, okay.
But I feel like he started it.
Oh,
so.
And you're gonna finish it.
That's right. And then shortly after moving to LA and taking sketch classes at UCB, I was on a sketch team with a gentleman named Michael, Ted, and Gabe. And we all just roundly referred to each other as Patty, Mikey, Teddy, and Gaby.
I like that.
I don't really know why. We were just like, for whatever reason, it's cute. When the four of us hang out, it's cute.
So, were your parents always you're always Patrick? Your parents or like your siblings or no?
So my mother.
Is this revealing too much? We don't have to.
No, it's fine. It's fine. We can. This is revealing, but we'll go there. My mother calls me Pa.
Oh, okay.
And so we don't know how it's spelled, right? Because it's not just PA, because that's just Pa.
Right.
But it's Pa. Do you hear? There's like an extra
I like
couple vowels at the end there.
Uh-huh.
You're not allowed to use it.
I wouldn't be so presumptuous.
But yeah, no, I mean, what your name has like almost no variation.
No, so when
it.
I was really young, across the my family's always called me Mark. Sometimes I get, because like my last name's Mitchell. Sometimes I get like Mitchell.
Yeah.
And
ever a Mitch? Do you ever get Mitch?
No. And then when I was growing up, the family across the street that like had some kids the age of me and my siblings, and so we would play together sometimes. They had an older brother whose name was Mark, who they called Marky, and so they would call me Marky. But otherwise, I mean, there's just not that much you can do with it.
No, I mean, especially because it's just Mark. It's not like
Marcus. Right,
for example. Does anyone ever make the assumption and call you Marcus?
No.
Have I ever done that?
I don't think so. It's also because I spell it with a K.
Right.
And so there's just there's just not much. There's not much you can do with it.
There's nothing really to do with it. Did
Yeah.
you have other nicknames growing up? Like in the family or elsewhere?
No, I really
no. People just want to call you Mark. There's a single syllable name that can't be like readily shortened or changed. I think that's good. Although we did call Gabe Gaby, which sounded like baby, and he was younger than the rest of us, so we relished it. Mark, what are we doing? If anyone would like to go to our Patreon and support us there, you can throw us a couple of bucks saying thank you for the shows, I guess. What's Patreon for? I think it's for that. If you support us at the 8-bit or the 16-bit levels, you can get access to our ongoing mini-series. We finished one about old detective shows called NCS Detective Club.
And all of those are on there. So
They're
if
all
you're
on there?
If you are a new patron, you can listen to all of those.
Yep. And if you, I guess either way, if you're a new patron or an old patron, you can listen to our new series, our ongoing series, NCS Goes Broadway. So far, we have talked about Chicago, and coming up later this week, we are going to be talking about the last 5 years. That episode is going to be coming out a little bit later than usual. We think probably Saturday or Sunday. Had a little bit of a scheduling snafu, but we will have a great conversation about the last 5 years. Mark, I'm very much looking forward to that.
Yeah, me too. And thank you so much to all of our patrons. We appreciate it so much. Here's something that you can do, whether you're a patron or not. You can join our Discord. Lots of good conversations about Nintendo in there and not Nintendo stuff.
That's true, but it's mostly Nintendo stuff. If you would like to get into the Discord, you need an invitation. How do you get an invitation? You email us at nintendocartridgesociety@gmail.com. And we send you an invitation. And then you get in and you have a great time talking with everyone. Everyone's very chill and friendly and interested and interesting, so get in there. It's a good community. One of the things that happened in that community recently was we got a debug from Discord user Virtual Boy. We were talking last week about Jeff Grubb of Giant Bomb talking about the
rumors
Metroid,
of like Metroid Prime 2 remastered.
Thank you. And also something about a Zelda something or
That's
other.
right. That's right.
Which we will be expanding on in a second because I got to take a victory lap. But Virtual Boy pointed out that Last of the Nintendogs, which is the podcast that Grubb was on when he was talking about Prime 2, is not actually a Giant Bomb podcast. It sounded like in our discussion of it that we thought it was. I got to say, this is a little bit the Mad Men, I don't think about you at all meme that we didn't really know, we didn't really care. But I appreciate the clarification from Virtual Boy. And that's the kind of thing that you can do in the Discord, is tell us when we got something wrong. And then we'll address it a week later. All right, Mark, let's get into what we've been playing this week. Mark, I know you've been dipping into Oxenfree a little bit.
Yeah, that's right. So I had picked it up a couple of weeks ago, right before the sequel was released, because it was on sale on the eShop for $1.99.
Pretty good.
And I had heard great things about it, and so finally picked it up. I did play it, but only because last week I had made a solemn vow, like we both spit in our palms and shook hands on it.
That's right.
That I was going to finish Tears of the, or at least defeat Ganondorf in Tears of the Kingdom, and I did it.
That's right. And we're not talking about that here because that's all we're talking about on Thursday.
Exactly. But so just saying that is why I gave myself permission to hop over and start Oxenfree. And I guess I didn't really even know like what to expect, what the game was about, like how it played or anything. But I'm enjoying it. I would say I've maybe played like a little over an hour.
Okay.
I looked before I started on, what is that website called? But like how long it takes to... How long to beat. And it said about like 4.5 hours if you're not getting everything. So it doesn't seem like it's a super long game. I'm really enjoying it so far. I'm super curious what like the answers to all the mysteries that it's posing is going to end up being. But it is really... Because it is a lot of... for the most part, you're walking from one area to another and like seeing what there is to see and like what happens and everything. But I'm enjoying that part of it. I will say, just minor thing on the Switch anyways, the loading times are pretty long. Like the first time it was in a loading state, I thought my system had frozen. Because there's not much going on the screen when it's loading, and it took a while, so I was like, oh, there's obviously something wrong. But then it kicked in and now I'm used to it. And
Okay.
But I feel like my experience with the Switch, maybe because I didn't have a PC or I haven't played, I don't know, for whatever reason, I like all the indie games that everybody played like 12 years ago.
Right.
I like when Cave Story came out on Switch,
yes.
I picked it up and that was the first time I'd played Cave Story. You know what I mean?
But I think this is also like I think this is an acceptable way to consume indie games, right? Is that like they don't really age, right? In the same way that like AAA titles do, or anything from like a major publisher, where it's like, no, it looked that way 10 years ago, and if they made it today, it would look exactly the same.
Yeah, that's true.
So yeah, I think it's okay.
But yeah, I'm definitely enjoying it so far.
Mark, I do want to mention. So okay, you and I were hanging out on Saturday for a little while, and then went a little bit longer in our hangout than I think either of us were expecting. So Sarah and I had some kind of plans that we had to like kind of reschedule and like figure out like a different plan for the evening. And so we spent our Saturday night. We went to dinner. And at dinner we were like, okay, one of the things we got to do is we got to finish Secret Invasion, right? We're halfway through this show. We got to finish it. No one's excited about it, right? And Sarah was like, can we second screen this thing? And I was like, yeah, okay, all right. So like, what do you wanna do while we're watching Secret Invasion? And she goes, Super Mario 3D World. And I was like, there we go. So what I did was I dragged the TV out of the bedroom, set it up next to the TV in the living room.
Amazing.
So we could watch Secret Invasion on the smaller TV and play Super Mario 3D World on the other TV. Would it have been much easier to just pull out the Switch and like play on the Switch itself? Sure, but we wanted our priorities to be clear. That we were playing
for anyone walking by
right.
who happened to see.
That's right. They'd be like, "Is that Sam Jackson?" We'd be like, "No. Mario's a cat." Right? So we finished Secret Invasion. It's bad. And we played the first 4 worlds of Super Mario 3D World, getting every star and stamp and everything because we've played the game a million times.
That's so amazing.
But yeah, it was a great Saturday night. Just like the perfect way to and like then get through this. Like so every now and then, like a TV show becomes a chore that you're like,
absolutely, yeah.
You're like, and I will finish it because like I'm just so in the bag for this Marvel stuff that like I can't just not watch it, right? Which I know is the route that you are currently taking. But yeah, this is the perfect way to do that. And then we watched most of Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Oh yeah, I mean that also that sounds the Raiders of the Lost Ark part sounds like really fun to have that going, and you have like Mario going.
Yeah,
it's perfect.
You can just glance over and be like, Salah's got all those kids saving Indiana Jones from the bad guys. Yeah. That was a lot. I also have been continuing to play The Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom because I can't stop. But we will talk more about that on Thursday. Mark, we now have a game that we are going to play.
Oh my gosh, that's right. Yeah.
On the show here.
The big moment has arrived. So, thank you to everyone who has sent us pictures of the Super Mario Brothers, or I guess just Super Mario Oreos.
Right. They are not Super Mario Brothers Oreos. They are Super Mario Oreos.
So, in your local like grocery store or drugstore, Patrick and I have had no such luck. Like
That's right.
Have not seen these in the wild, and so I did end up picking them up on Amazon with some other stuff.
Now, it is worth saying that neither of us tried very hard.
Yeah, I went to like where I usually go to stuff.
Right.
And it wasn't there.
That's right.
But we're going to do it because last week,
Mm-hmm.
you got a message from friend of the show, Taylor, saying that there's like a little game that goes along with it, and I don't think we understood at the time what the game
tried
is.
To load it on
but
my
we know
phone.
what it is now.
It was real time. I had to get on the Wi-Fi. The whole thing was a mess. But now we know that the game is about stacking the cookies on the side of a glass.
Yeah. So the little the thing on the back says,
there's a thing on the back.
Princess Peach is missing and Bowser is trying to take over her castle. Will you join us and find the right Oreo cookies to help Mario and the other heroes save the kingdom? And then there's a QR code, and when you scan the QR code, it takes you to like the Oreo website, and it's basically telling you that the challenge is you put the Bowser cookie on the bottom.
Okay.
You're trying to balance them on the edge of a glass.
Right.
So you're
already seems difficult.
It seems really hard. And then you are putting the Bowser cookie first, and then
Uh-huh.
you're stacking other cookies on top. And the goal is to see how many cookies you can stack.
Right. So we need to get 2 Bowser cookies out of here.
Yeah.
First.
Okay. So I'm opening.
We're gonna work together.
Yeah.
Here
We go.
Okay.
Opening.
Resealable box.
Uh-huh.
Okay, great.
And just to remind everybody, these are just
They're just Oreos.
They're just Oreos with like Mario characters. Like here's a blooper imprinted on them.
I don't. Why waste a die cutter mold on generating a blooper? Like what is this?
Okay, so there's a mushroom. So
There's
there's
a
six. So there's 16. That's a Luigi, and there's a fire flower.
All right.
And it says to you got to get in here to help. There's a Goomba.
There's a piranha plant.
A Toad. And so we're looking for. So I'm
Mario,
assuming there's a Bowser in all of these,
Luigi.
but I guess
I
there's there's no guarantee.
we got a Bowser Jr.
Okay.
Okay. And a Spiny.
Oh,
Spiky.
there's a Koopa Troopa. And okay, so maybe we just start stacking cookies because I don't know.
Yeah.
There's a
Bowser or
piranha
no
plant.
Bowser. Okay.
A coin.
The worst one. Probably.
Yeah. I wonder how many out of the 16 we've gotten because
I don't think we've had any duplicates yet.
No, well, there's a
Okay,
superstar and there's a Yoshi.
Right, and we got a repeat of a
Couple
blooper.
Yoshis. I am. So we have had no Marios, right? Just
No.
Luigi.
We've
Couple
had
Luigis.
2 Luigis, no
I'm-
Mario, and no Bowser.
Yeah, I'm skeptical.
Can we play that? Okay, so there's a Yoshi, there's another coin, another star.
So we've taken all the cookies out, and we got no Bowsers, we got no
Oh no, we have 1 Mario.
Oh, we have 1 Mario.
One
Okay.
Mario. Okay.
When we have a Bowser Jr., so that'll have to do. We'll smother the Bowser Jr.
Okay.
And I'll put a bloop. Oh no, I'll put a piranha plant on the bottom of mine. So
and I will do the. So
this
how
seems impossible.
How in the heck? Okay.
Okay, so
I've got 1 balanced right now.
Okay, and there's no like time limit, only our own patience.
Right, and the patience of the listener.
Yeah. Okay, so we have glasses. We each have a cookie balanced on it, and now we're gonna stack as many as we can, and see, I guess, which one of us is the. So I have 2.
Yeah, I also have 2 now. I've put
3. I couldn't complete the
third.
sentence of which one of us is because I don't actually know what the point of.
Right, I've got 4.
5.
Uh, 5 is probably gonna tip it for Mark.
I think 5 is yeah. Yeah,
Okay,
I don't think there's any way out of this.
I'm going for my 5th.
Oh yeah,
All
5
right,
was
okay.
it.
We both tumbled to the ground. There are 5 cookies, and now there's just I don't know what 20 cookies on your kitchen table here. What do we do with these now?
We've touched all of them, so
I'm just gonna eat this one.
yeah. And your review of the Super Mario Oreo?
It's an Oreo.
Oreos are really good. I will say that.
Oh,
Oh sure, yeah, And I think that is everything that we've been playing. Let's get out of the segment. Ooh, I feel the host power.
Yeah. I mean the man Oreos like stick to your teeth, huh? Yeah. Anytime you want to just like move us out of a segment, you just say the words, and I have to push the button. We're talking about new releases now.
That's right, and there's not really anything in the future that I wanted to call out for the rest of the week.
Future!
But last week,
The past.
on July 26th, so last Wednesday, a day after our news episode dropped, 2 new games were released for the Nintendo Switch Online Game Boy Color, and that was The Legend of Zelda Oracle of Ages and The Legend of Zelda Oracle of Seasons, both available right now.
Right now. For Nintendo Switch online, not the expansion pass. If you subscribe to the service at all, you have access to these things. And Mark, I don't want to be like too cocky about this, but we called it last week.
I feel like remind me because I don't want to congratulate ourselves too much. But was it on two fronts?
I want to,
or was it just on one front? Because I know
Yes.
when we were talking about the Jeff Grubb news,
Yes.
there was the Metroid Prime 2 remastered kind of like discussion. But then also he mentioned there was something not Tears of the Kingdom related that's like Zelda coming this year, and you
Right.
speculated that
It could
maybe
just
it's
be
just
these.
Oracle of Ages and Seasons.
And he could still be referring to something else.
Right,
Like
right.
that's
Yeah.
totally possible. But because we had such an in-depth conversation about like what has come to the service when, and like how screwed up that schedule is, that's part of what got it on my mind in the first place. Is like we still have these two outstanding Zelda games that we just need to know when they're coming out, and now we do when they're out.
Yeah.
Pretty
crazy.
I'm saying we nailed it. That we called it.
Remind me, did the spreadsheet lead us to this, or no? The spreadsheet did not. The spreadsheet forsake us, but in that moment,
Right.
when we were like, "Whose set of footprints is this?" The spreadsheet was like,
right. That's when I carried you.
Uh-huh,
Right. That's when
yeah.
I was carrying you all along. It's the spreadsheet. The spreadsheet does kind of break down, and like what it suggests is that we would have gotten something else in July,
Okay.
a Game Boy Advance game or something. But this is the first time that they're releasing new Game Boy games by themselves, like not as part of a. Normally, it's 2 Game Boy games, 1 NES game, and 1 Super NES game. So, like. The patterns have been shattered here, right? Like Nintendo is defying norms
They're onto us
already. Yeah. But look, it's just another piece of data. For the
it's
spreadsheet,
true,
right?
It's true. Yeah.
So we'll get to the bottom of this. Mark, I don't know if you are totally plugged into it, but the Super NPC Radio guys are releasing their classic Zelda Games Club episodes in the free feed at the moment. So the episode about Oracle of Ages that you and I were on with Connor McCabe and Vic Michaelis is now free for everyone to listen to. So
Kismet.
So check out the if you are interested in us kind of complaining about the game, you can check out that episode of the Super NPC Games Club.
One thing I liked about the speaking of kind of complaining about the game is the discussion around when Oracle of Ages and Seasons was released. It's always fun to me to see how many like it's a fun discussion to be had where people are like, I love these games, like these are my favorite Zelda games, because it's not an opinion I share, and so it's so interesting.
Yes.
Like I love hearing other people's takes on like what their favorite Zelda game is, because
Yes,
every Zelda, like I don't think there's a bad Zelda game, and so it's always fun to hear like why
what about
somebody.
Spirit Tracks?
Yeah, but I will still entertain people, and it's been so long since I played Spirit Tracks,
Sure.
that it's almost like if I played it again, it would be a new game.
Right.
You know
Was
what I
it
mean?
bad or were you depressed? Right? Like who knows?
Yeah, no,
Who's to
seriously.
say?
At that time of my life, genuinely, who was to
who
say?
knows?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean I absolutely agree. I don't really like these games. But like having them there, I am a little bit tempted to like visit with a rewind function and everything. Like,
Right, yeah.
You can just kind of like, there are, I remember there being a fair number of like puzzles in Oracle of Ages where I would like save scum my way through them that were just like in little like mini games and stuff like that rewinding would make it even easier to do. So yeah, I don't know. The both these games are like a little bit bloated, but they have that bear who flies.
Uh-huh.
Like Moochie.
Moochie or something?
Yeah.
Looks like the Charmin bear, but with wings.
Yeah, and he's blue. He's a good bear. I don't know. But yeah, nothing else really of note coming out this week. Mark, do you think you'll be revisiting the Oracle games at all?
I think that if I were going to play a game in that style, I would make another attempt at Minish Cap.
Yeah, I think I probably would as well. I tell you, they gotta put more games in the GBA and Game Boy library, if for no other reason than it is very hard to organize them in a visually pleasing way. On the, I did like I went really deep on organizing my NES and Super NES libraries in a way that's like aesthetically consistent, right? These types of games are here, these types of games are here, and everything is like arranged by like size to my level of like caring about it. And there's like 8 GBA games, and I'm like, where does anything go?
Right.
How do you do 8? It's not enough. And the Game Boy is the similar problem, especially because like there's so like maybe like 4 of the games that are available right now are like total shovelware kind of games where it's like maybe interesting to mess around with Burger Time Deluxe for a second, but mostly you just like want to play it once and then like shuffle it off.
Right. Yeah.
I never play it. area. So we need more games if for no other reason than it'll make organizing them better. All right, Mark, let's close out the new releases. Felt good to reclaim the host power there. Which brings us to a regular segment on our show. It's time for 433. In 1952, American composer John Cage wrote a piece called 433, wherein a performer or group of performers did not play their instruments for 4 minutes and 33 seconds. For the purposes of this show, our instruments are talking about Nintendo. So, for the duration of one performance, 433, Mark and I'll talk about something not at all Nintendo related, thus fulfilling the contract of the piece. Mark, we have a suggestion from our Discord, which again, you can join by emailing us. We'll send you an invitation. It goes like this. I have a suggestion for 433. What are you cooking or baking in the kitchen? Or what is something your significant other makes you that you really enjoy? This is suggested by Mace Ace. Mark, something you make in the kitchen.
Yeah, I am not much of a cook. Like I can follow instructions. So like if there's a recipe or something, but kind of the thing is my husband doesn't like to eat anything that I cook because I grew up very like casseroles and like shake and bake chicken. So like, I'm going to have
were those things that you were making?
No. But like, from like being in the kitchen with my mom and like all that kind of stuff, and so like I can make like shake and bake and I can steam broccoli and I can make rice, and so I can put it together and have it be like a meal. But my husband is not like interested in that,
right?
But he is a really good cook and he cooks a lot of Chinese food, and so I am like
you're the benefactor.
I am, yes. And if like my husband's out of town or something, I'll make, because I love shake and bake chicken to this day. So I'll make shake and bake chicken, for me, and then but
shake and bake chicken for one.
Yeah,
Table
that's right.
for one.
Table for one, truly. And he has like I have made it for him before, and he has eaten it, but it is not like
Good
on
sport,
his like
though.
top 10 list of favorite meals. I will say one thing that again I learned from my mom that I can make, because it uses a slow cooker, so you just put all the ingredients in.
Yeah.
Is an amazing pot roast.
Ooh.
Yes, and so that my husband does enjoy.
So Sarah and I don't eat meat, right? So there's a lot of that, like most of the things you just mentioned are like meals that we that we don't make at home. But we do a lot of like Mexican food. So I do like fajitas kind of a lot. Just like like with veggies and like pepper, onion, like a squash of some kind, and then doing like a can of black beans and just like dumping the whole can in the first of all, getting some onions in there, get some garlic in there, dump the whole can of beans, liquid and all, and then like cumin and like a little bit of salt, but you probably don't actually need salt, and then like making guacamole and just like going like all out, like building a like fajita taco kind of situation. And now we're out of time already.
Oh man, that sounded so good.
So we do that a lot. We also do like breakfast tacos a lot.
Oh,
Key to a good breakfast taco, frozen tater tots. You make tater tots and you just put them in the taco. Then like eggs and cheese and whatever else you need. But like the tater tots unlock the whole thing.
Oh.
And then we make other meals. We were accompanied today by the Berliner Philharmoniker. All right, Mark, let's get into the news.
It really does feel like we have turned a corner here, and new hardware rumors.
We've turned a corner that we've turned before, though.
Are beginning to heat up. Yeah, but like last time this happened, we got the Nintendo OLED Switch, like the Nintendo Switch OLED, which wasn't exactly what everybody was expecting, but like there was in fact something. And back at the beginning of this month, we had that rumor from the from Twitter, from the person who had leaked like a new 2D Metroid.
Oh yeah,
like supposedly saying that a Spanish studio got a development kit for the next Nintendo hardware.
Right, and we're like, is that Mercury Steam?
Right,
Who
exactly.
made Metroid Dread?
And then yesterday, both VGC and Eurogamer published reports that Nintendo is planning a late 2024 release for new hardware. And then VGC reported that development kits are in the hands of key partners right now. So let's just this is from the VGC article, and let's kind of just run it down to make sure that we're getting it exactly what they're actually saying.
Right, because I don't know how much information is here, but I
Yes.
think let's how they present it and the raindrops they run between to present what they know.
Yes. So, quote, development kits for Nintendo's next console are now with key partner studios, with launch planned for next year, sources have told VGC. According to multiple people with knowledge of Nintendo's next-gen console plans, the company is likely to release new hardware during the second half of 2024 to ensure that it has ample stock available on day one and to avoid the kind of shortages seen with the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X/S. Although specific details on the console are being kept closely guarded, those VGC spoke to indicated that the next-gen console would be able to be used in portable mode, similar to the Nintendo Switch. Two sources VGC spoke to suggested that the console could launch with an LCD screen instead of the more premium OLED in order to bring down costs, especially considering the increased storage needed for higher fidelity games. The current Switch comes with just 32 gigabytes of internal memory, while many current gen PlayStation Xbox games are over 100 gigabytes. Like its predecessor, the new Nintendo console will also accept physical games via cartridge slot, the sources said. Other details, such as backwards compatibility support for Switch games, physical and digital, remains unclear. Nintendo has said it wants to convert as many of Switch's 100 million plus user base as possible to its next system, although some third-party publishers are said to have expressed concern that legacy support for for Switch games could negatively affect sales of next-gen titles. End quote.
Sure. Okay. So, some third-party publishers are said to have expressed concern that legacy support for Switch games could negatively affect sales of next-gen titles.
Which I believe, but I also believe the answer to that would be charge them for the upgrade like we do on, like, PlayStation.
Sure. Right. But, I mean, like, no matter what, if Nintendo makes a new thing, right, and you're developing a game for either like Switch or the new Switch, right? I mean, like, because they can still make. I mean, like, literally with the new 3DS versus the original 3DS, there were games that could only run on the new 3DS, and those games weren't held back by the lack of power of the original 3DS, right?
Right.
So I don't know. It seems like that feels a little bit like an unfounded claim, unless they're saying that Nintendo would make it so they had to support the original Switch as well.
Oh, that's interesting. The way that I read it, it was more that, hey, like, if the new Switch is backwards compatible, then how are we going to charge people again for the games we released on the Switch?
I see what you're saying. Or why would they pay for the new stuff when they could just buy you just charge more for the higher premium version of it.
Right.
Nintendo games have been locked at 60 for a while, right? Like, and everyone else is rising up to 70. Zelda got away with it. Just make a game as good as Zelda. You'll be fine.
The other thing I thought was interesting was that they want to, like, stockpile the
that is
system ahead of launch, so
that
there's, like, plenty of stock.
That feels very un-Nintendo.
It does. I feel like we're all, like, Nintendo generally is always dealing with, like, shortages of physical goods.
Right, and, like, it seemed... Where do you land on this? Because, like, I've been thinking about it, and, like, if they make a successor to the Switch that is simply a much more powerful Switch that can run more intensive games, maybe has some other kind of, like, functionality to it, is backwards compatible, and maybe costs a little bit more. It's got to cost a little bit more, right? What do we think the demand is like for that?
I know, it's so. I think that's a great question,
because there are over 100 million Switches in the wild already, which means those people already have the ability to play the Nintendo games.
Yep. Yeah, I think it's a great question. I don't believe personally that the next Nintendo hardware will just be like an upgraded version of the Switch.
Okay.
I think that is what it'll primarily be, but I do think there is something that I have not like that I can't even imagine
Right.
that is going to be a hook.
Some kind of shoe.
I would love that instead of a dock.
Yeah.
It's like it's like
You just put it in a shoe?
yeah, you just put it in a shoe.
That's cool.
Um,
No, I mean, I think you're probably right. Something along the lines of like the move to the 3DS, right? Where, yeah, ultimately it is just a stronger DS, but in reality, or the way it's marketed as, like, no, this thing has 3D and like the online shop and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, just hopefully it's more compelling than like the 3D end up being. You know
Right,
what I mean?
right,
And so
right,
I feel like that's always the challenge. That's the challenge that Nintendo had with following up the DS. And not that the 3DS was not successful, but it wasn't on the level of the DS. That's the challenge they had following up on the Wii.
Yeah.
Where it's like, how do we like do the Nintendo thing where we're not just like repeating ourselves with better graphics
And not just chasing what the other competitors are doing.
right? Like how do we do that in a compelling way that still engages the people that were interested in like the previous hardware? And
Right.
that's really hard. It's
And-
super hard.
Right. Well, and the Wii to the Wii U, not successful.
Right.
The DS to the 3DS, successful, not as successful as the 3DS, but I think like, or not as successful as the DS. And I think that's probably more like the model that we're headed into. Because like, I do have a hard time imagining a world where what is effectively a better Switch doesn't sell well, right? Like, isn't a successful thing, especially if they continue to like have new Nintendo first party games to put out on these things. But it's also like, okay, what are those? Like, we Zelda just came out, right? Like the game that was like a surefire, like sure thing. And I guess the answer is always just going to be Pokemon, right? Like,
but I mean I think it's a fair point where I think that it's a hard question.
yeah,
And I think, Nintendo has talked about being in unprecedented territory. But, and I think going from like the Wii U to Switch, obviously there was a lot riding on it, but part of it was also like, what is the worst? Well, yeah, Wii U to Switch was bad because they were also like, it could have gone wrong, and then you'd have the 3DS, but the 3DS was an old system. You know what I mean? Like,
right,
so they
right.
would have had to like pivot again. But sometimes when you're moving on from like failure, it's great. Like we're starting over. It's so much harder.
Right.
But I also, that being said, we have, seen the PlayStation 5. Yeah, like it got off to a rocky start hardware wise because there just weren't systems available. But
that
we were
was
going from the PlayStation
yeah.
4 to the PlayStation 5, and the PlayStation 5, for all intents and purposes, is a more powerful PlayStation 4. It just does the same thing, just better.
Right,
and it's
right.
been enormously successful. So
Right, and like truly didn't have any compelling exclusive hardware at the beginning, right? Or software.
yeah.
Other than that Ratchet and Clank game, like within the first couple months. But yeah, like beyond that, it's kind of just like, and the Xbox as well, right? That like you could play basically every game that was on the series on the Xbox One, and
For many years.
very very little drop in quality. And I think people are just excited to like have the new thing and see all of their stuff start to carry over. This is one of the things that Microsoft was saying, that like they picked, not that they picked it, but that they picked the wrong generation to lose, because the PlayStation 4, Xbox One generation was the generation where people started building a digital library that would carry forward into the future, where that became expected.
Like locks you in to a system.
Exactly. And like, does Nintendo see it that way? Does Nintendo see the libraries that you and I have amassed on Switch? I tell you, I had to download I'm saying I tell you a lot. What is a new affectation of mine? When Sarah said that she wanted to play Super Mario 3D World, I had to re-download it onto the Switch. It's a game that I had purchased digitally, and I'm scrolling through. S is near the end of the alphabet, so I'm scrolling through the re-download list, and I have a ton of games on. I have so many games on Switch, Mark. hurts me to think that there could be a next generation Nintendo thing that comes out next year that I can't export my enormous library
No,
to it.
I do think that it's I'm not saying Nintendo will do it, but it's my expectation that they will, because that's just what I expect from platforms nowadays. I buy a new iPhone and
Yeah.
I can use, like I can re-download the stuff I had bought, the apps like that I had bought previously. Moving to like the new PlayStation, like whatever it is, it's just
Yeah.
kind of like the expectation. I will say I think one difference between Sony and Microsoft, generally speaking, compared to Nintendo, is I think software is more of a, because Nintendo doesn't get like the third party heavy hitters yet, like Call of Duty as an example, although
But they will.
but they will
For 10 years.
but it's like, currently, if you want, like, call it those third party games that are shared like libraries,
Yeah, true.
like Nintendo doesn't really get those. And so for Sony and Microsoft having a user like locked into the ecosystem because they bought the last Call of Duty on their PlayStation 4, and so they want to be able to play that on their PlayStation 5, that is that lock-in is effective. For Nintendo, so much of their system sellers are their own first party stuff that no other system has anyways, that I don't know that there's that same, like, we need to lock them into this ecosystem, because it's kind of like, well, if you want Zelda, this is where Zelda
you have
is.
to go to the next Nintendo thing.
That being said, I still think it's just like the expectation, and I would be really shocked and disappointed if it turns out that that is not the case with the next Nintendo hardware.
Yeah, well, and the Wii U to Switch is the first time that we've seen no backwards compatibility at all in like from one hardware generation to the next, be it in handheld or console, since the Nintendo 64 to the GameCube. Everything else since then has had backwards compatibility, and always one generation of backwards compatibility in the handheld market. So I would also expect that at least we got another like 7 good years with the new Switch to keep these libraries going forward. Mark, if they are putting out new hardware next year at some point, do you think they have a standard bearer title, like a game that is going to be the one to play, the buzzy, you gotta get it to play? And look, Breath of the Wild was this, right, for Switch. But Nintendo doesn't always have that, right? Like Mario 64, Super Mario World, and then maybe that's it, right? Well, and of course, what's it? I was trying to make a joke about the Game Boy Alleyway.
Oh, Alleyway, yeah,
Alleyway.
I would say Wii Sports for the Wii.
Wii Sports, that's true, and Tetris, I guess, is also the non-joke answer from the Game Boy. But so yeah, maybe there are 5 examples right there. So maybe it happens about half the time.
Yeah, I do see your point though. And they just released Tears of the Kingdom, obviously, and so
it's not going to be Zelda,
right? And they just had Splatoon, like we had Splatoon 3 last year,
right?
I don't know. It makes sense to me that they would. That seemed like such a successful part of the launch of Switch.
Totally.
That it was like, hey, we just have a banger year of hardware, or of software, and I don't think that 2017 is ever going to be repeated again.
Uh-huh.
But like, is a year between Super Mario Brothers Wonder and a new flagship 3D Mario game enough time?
I mean, probably, right? Like, who knows how long they've had Wonder locked and ready to go.
A new Pokemon generation?
Pokemon will wait, though. Like, if we get this console in 2024, the new Pokemon that comes out in 2025 will be on the old Switch.
Or could it be cross-gen? Like,
it could be cross-gen.
Because I do feel like the OLED model has shown Nintendo that people are willing to upgrade their like existing hardware, right? To just like it's just better hardware. And so, yes, you aren't going to get everybody who bought a Switch in the last couple of years to buy a new Switch next year, but you might get enough people,
Yeah.
to do it that even if it is a lot of cross-gen games or whatever, with one flagship title that looks amazing on because it's in 4K, it's like a Mario game in 4K
Right, right,
and
right.
all that kind of stuff. Maybe that's enough for for enough people to upgrade, knowing that okay, and then we'll work on getting that other like 90 million, over the next few
Yeah,
years to make that
yeah.
transition.
What's what's so interesting though is that like the using Pokemon as the specific example is like, well, it does clearly drive sales. The Pokemon Company refuses to let those games be the tail that wags the dog, right? That like they're like, no, prove the audience is there, and then we'll go.
I think that was true until the Switch era, because they had that
Mm.
because definitely we saw Pokemon historically as kind of like a late mover,
Yeah,
because they were like Dragon Quest. They were like, where's the
yeah.
the install base, and so that's why I wonder if it's like
Dragon Quest will always be asking that.
yeah, that's right. But that's why I wonder if like cross gen, maybe that is a strategy that Nintendo does, or at least the Pokemon Company does, to kind of but yeah, because we saw, what was it? Was it Pokemon 20 or not Pokemon? Was it E3 2017 that there was that like video from the head of the Pokemon Company
Yeah.
being like, "Oh, and we're bringing the next." Sure, was it under duress that he had to make this video? But
Oh, it was like a hostage video for sure.
where he
Yeah.
was like, we're bringing the next like generation of Pokemon games to the Nintendo Switch."
Right, right, right. But I think at that point the writing was on the wall, right? Like, the Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon came out in 2017, right?
Yeah, but like Sun and Moon had just been the best selling,
Great point,
like
yeah.
generation. So they could have. I mean, it probably would have been I mean, it's Pokemon, so who knows what would have happened? But the 3DS died a swift death when
Yeah.
the Switch came out, and so can you kind of like imagine if the next Pokemon generation was still on the 3DS? It would have been really interesting to see what would have
Yeah,
happened.
yeah, it's that is true. So okay, like just thinking about the current Switch like big sellers to see if there is like a new entry in those series that could appear as like launch games or launch year games. I think Smash is out of the picture.
Yeah,
I
I agree.
The next Smash game is many years away, if there ever is another one. Also, how do you follow up on Smash Ultimate? I feel the same way about Mario Kart.
Yeah, and could you get enough people to buy like a Mario Kart 9 or 10 or whatever they end up calling it? Because like 8 Deluxe has been so successful, and they supported it up to the end of this year. Like, do
Right.
you need like space?
Do you need space to then present another Mario Kart game that has fewer than 96 tracks?
What if it's a franchise that was rumored a few years ago, but we haven't heard anything of, and I think actually has never launched a system, and except maybe the NES, and I think actually would make a lot of noise, and that's a new Donkey Kong platformer.
New Donkey Kong platformer would make a lot of noise. That is true. It's still like we've talked about it before that like Nintendo like main Nintendo like R&D one they always view Donkey Kong as like not their thing. Like that's the rare thing or the retro thing.
But the rumor, anyways,
The rumor is that
was
they're
that was
doing
not
it.
true
Right.
anymore. That like the developers now had like grown up with Donkey Kong
There we
Country,
go.
and so they embraced it more than. So yeah, I don't know, but it's a fair point. Like what franchises, especially like again like this year after 20 coming around again, and we're getting a new 2D Mario platform, and we had
Right.
Tears of the Kingdom, and
Right.
like it wasn't that long ago that we had Splatoon 3. Like yeah, like what?
And Metroid Prime 4 is not this.
No,
No. There's no world where Metroid Prime 4, a new Metroid Prime game, is the like flagship launch. It's just Metroid's too niche of a title.
I think you could do it,
especially in Japan.
I think you could do it if it was. I don't think it could be. I don't think it would be. I think it was like Animal Crossing. If it was a new Animal Crossing with a Metroid, I like within the first 9 months.
Yeah.
I think you could do that.
Well, but so Animal Crossing was the one that I was leaving out because like I think it probably is the most likely that they could, they had Happy Home Paradise, but that's also been out for what, like 2 years now at this point.
Probably.
And then the Animal Crossing team has just been like kind of quiet, and they expressly said when they put out the Happy Home Paradise that like that was it, no more updates to Animal Crossing. Is that because they've just been like, we need to make sure the next one is the be-all, end-all definitive. People are primed and ready to, like, but also are they?
What an amazing I would say a lot about. I mean, obviously, Animal Crossing is a very important franchise for Nintendo, but it would say a lot about how Nintendo sees it if it was the headline game
Yeah.
of a new console.
And would say a lot about how they are viewing the console itself too, right? About like what audience they're going after.
Yeah, yeah. But I think if you had Animal Crossing, if you had a new 3D Mario platformer, we'll just say a Donkey Kong platformer because why not? And you had a new um Metroid game like Metroid Prime 4 within the first year.
Yeah, that about locks
That's
it
a
down.
strong.
That locks it down.
And then you have like a weird like ARMS type thing, where it's like here's our shot,
right? And then like a remake of Phantom Hourglass or something.
and you get Sushi Strikers 2 in there.
Ooh. Dr. Mario World for console.
Yeah, that Dr. Mario World Plus. So
plus.
Just to note that Eurogamer, they didn't really have anything to add to VGC's report other than that they have heard from their own sources that the latter half of 2024 is Nintendo's current plan for new hardware. I will say all of, having the OLED thing happening and some of us, if you remember the NX rumors and all the stuff that was going on around there about like Pokemon Stars and where it's like, how much of an echo chamber is there here? Are these actually different sources than VGC, or is it the same people that VGC talked to? How many people in general are we talking about? Like 2 people, 3? You know what I mean?
Yes.
So it's just hard to know, but it is interesting that you now have 2 sites that are. Plus, there was a Famitsu report that I don't think we talked about like a couple of months ago saying that the development was on track for 2024. And so all the pieces it kind of like it all kind of makes sense.
All the pieces are kind of there, and it does make sense. And VGC talks to an analyst, an industry analyst, in their piece about this. That's like, this is about the time when Nintendo, like mid other guy generations, Nintendo put something out, and like I mean it's and it does feel like it's time, right? Like they haven't made us buy a new piece of hardware in a long time. And the fact that they don't have the sort of 2-pillar approach anymore means that like they're hurting for that like bump in sales. One of the things that the analyst said was like analyzing this coming fiscal year over the last fiscal year, is that like they are on track to it's something like 15% a downward trend in both hardware and software, and the only way to fight that would be to release new hardware.
Yeah, I mean, once when you've hit the 100 million mark, you're just at some point going to reach saturation with how many people are going to buy a Switch.
Yeah, what's cooler than 100 million? 100 billion.
Hey, speaking of rumors,
let's do some more
data mining of the latest Pokemon Masters EX update, which was version 2.35, has folks speculating that there will be a Pokemon Presents presentation on August 8th, 2023. So in the code, there's like a parameter that is campaign Pokemon Presents, and it has a start date of 16914999600, which
let me call that
somehow translates to, we're all in agreement, so translates to August 8th, 2023.
Right. Citation needed, but it's
so next Tuesday, a week from today.
So Pokemon Presents, man, you know what they love doing in a Pokemon Presents? Celebrating the 2.5-year anniversary of something. Of some mobile game. They love it.
I mean, yeah, you have, sometimes they do Pokemon Presents as a little bit of throat clearing before a Nintendo Direct.
That's true.
A few weeks later. And then also there's the Pokemon Scarlet and Violet DLC, which has to be coming out perilously soon. At least the first round.
Yeah, that's true. Kind of weird that we haven't seen the first round of it yet. And I mean, also, August 8th, like you say, is a week from today, right? We are in August now. It is August 1st, which means we are but a month away from September, and there's always a Nintendo Direct in September. I can't believe how fast this year is going.
I know.
It's basically over.
If somebody knows how 16914996000 translates to August 8th, 2023, I would just
Keep
be
it to
curious to know.
yourself. Like,
No,
just
no,
just
I want to
don't-
know.
No,
I want to. Do you know
don't
actually? Do you know actually another thing that I do want to know? I am very interested in other people's thoughts on the stuff we were talking about with new Nintendo hardware.
Yeah.
And how Nintendo can like make that transition appealing to people, and what franchises maybe we haven't thought about that would be like big AAA titles to kick it off with.
Yeah. And maybe that's something also that we should do, is that we should maybe do like an episode coming up with like our
Interesting.
Switch 2 launch year
Yeah.
plans.
That would be fun. We should
Write it down.
definitely do that. Write it down. Yeah, add it to the list for sure. Hey, you know what? It's a banner week for VGC coverage on this show, because they also published recently an interview with the managing director and president of Jupiter Studios, which is the Japanese developer who has been creating Picross games for almost 30 years.
So they don't do all of the Picross games. They do most of them.
So I think they do okay because
There are a couple non-Jupiter developed ones that aren't good.
So here's some interesting things from the interview that I didn't know. One of them is that Nintendo owns the Picross trademark, and but Jupiter quote borrows it from them. That's what it says. Yeah. But then Jupiter in the interview says that they own the game system.
Yes. So the clicky, tactile way that you interact with a Picross game, the very good UI of it belongs to Jupiter. So when someone who isn't Jupiter makes a Picross game, it is bad.
Well, and they also have made Picross games. Like they made one that was a tie-in with Final Fantasy, but it wasn't called Picross. It was called Pictograph or Pictotech or something like that. Because
is that a phone game?
Because
can I get that right
because
now?
Nintendo owns the Picross trademark, which I didn't know. When asked about the games being delisted from the Nintendo 3DS eShops, there's Picross games that were on the 3DS eShop. Jupiter said,
including some absolute bangers. So there's Picross 3D, Picross 3D 2, which is maybe the best Picross game, and of course Twilight Princess Picross.
Of course, yes. So they said that they have a way to preserve the older titles at their studio, and that they'd like to find a way to utilize them in the future.
I mean, look, when Nintendo finally gets their stuff together and puts out the Twilight Princess HD on Switch, they can release it alongside the Twilight Princess Picross. That would be perfect.
Also, through
a game you've never been able to buy before. You could only ever trade platinum points for it.
That's right. Well, speaking of those collaborations with Nintendo, Jupiter kind of talked about it is difficult to get Nintendo to agree to a collaboration.
That makes sense.
The expectation is that if it involves Nintendo characters or intellectual property, basically, then Nintendo will publish it. And so that sets the bar high to get it approved. So they were talking about how on the Nintendo DS, there was a Picross game and they proposed a sequel, and Nintendo was like, yeah, can you guarantee that it'll sell 1 million copies? And Jupiter was like, well, we can't guarantee it. And so it didn't get made.
Wow.
But Jupiter they say that
1 million copies. How long?
But this was in the DS era, where a lot of that software was doing, and it was in the middle of the Sudoku craze, which I'm guessing lifted the tide of all puzzle games, including Picross.
Yeah, why not?
But Jupiter knows that they want to celebrate the 30th anniversary of Picross in 2025, so they're pitching Nintendo on how to make that happen.
Here's how to make it happen. Remember the Sega Genesis and Master System Picross thing where it was all
oh right, yeah,
Sega sprites.
Do
that, but instead of Sega, make it Super Nintendo.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
Because that'd be so fun.
That would be
make
super
Mario's head. I want to put together the title screen from Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. It would be so good.
You would kind of mentioned this piece in a roundabout way earlier, but you were talking about, it's not time for another Smash Brothers. How do they even follow up Smash Brothers Ultimate? So Masahiro Sakurai, the creator of the Super Smash Brothers series, released a video on his YouTube channel, which, by the way, if you are not subscribed to, it's pretty delightful. You get some fun
and they're
insight
really
into
well
game
produced
development.
too.
Yeah, they are.
Is that all he does now? Is that his full-time job as a YouTuber?
I really wonder because it's so much of it is about game development, and it's really interesting to hear his point of view on that sort of thing. But also, like, what is he spending his time doing?
I don't know.
He doesn't seem like the kind of person who would be happy in retirement.
No.
Like, you would
No,
be
never,
happy just
right.
like, you know, like not working tirelessly on something.
But also, like, maybe you would be happy doing that. He's a man who'll die at his desk. Like,
So he released a new video on his YouTube channel talking about the team behind Super Smash Bros. Brawl, and in the video he shared his sentiment on what could come next for the series, noting that it's an important series for Nintendo. So you know it's only a matter of time until another game gets made. But quote, it's going to take some work to figure out exactly how to make that happen. And what he means is, and this is another quote, the question is what happens next time? I mean, whatever comes after Smash Bros. Ultimate. One option would be to separate the series itself from the original creator. But for now, at least, I can't really imagine a Smash Bros. Title without me. You might think that's a natural stance for someone in my role, but I say so speaking objectively. I feel the same way President Iwata did when he formed the team for Smash Bros. Brawl. At present, we don't have someone who can simply take the reins. He also adds, quote, for my part, I'd like to keep working with Nintendo however I'm able. So what he's talking about with Smash Brothers Brawl there is famously Iwata at E3 like announced a Super Smash Brothers title for Wii, and Sakurai was in the audience and was like, "Huh," and then later met with Iwata, and Iwata was like, "Look, I know I put you in a tough spot. Will you come back and like do this for us?"
Didn't the director of Final Fantasy VII Remake get that same treatment from Square Enix? I think it's a good move. Announce the game that would be like wouldn't make sense without the director, and then be like, I don't know. I think you gotta do it.
Yeah, and so I think it's it's an interesting point. Maybe Sakurai comes back for one more game.
Okay, but
to like set up his team.
Here, I mean, that would be great. That would be fine. Whatever. I think Smash Brothers needs a George Lazenby entry, right? I'm referring, of course, to James Bond in On Her Majesty's Secret Service. Sean Connery was done playing the role, or so he thought. George Lazenby comes in, makes a pretty good movie, arguably one of like the top 5 non-Craig Bond movies. A lot of qualifiers here, and it's mostly good because Diana Rigg is incredible. And then Connery comes back a couple years later to like reprise the role, and then he's done for real. But it just like breaks the seal on like here's a new take on this. And Smash Brothers, like Kart, needs a new take on it because you can't just do another bigger one.
Yeah. Yep. No, I completely agree. It will be really interesting to see whatever they come up with, and my expectation is that we will see whatever that is on the next Nintendo hardware. It's hard to imagine, and it's not a guarantee, but it is hard for me to imagine there's a generation of Nintendo hardware that doesn't have Smash Brothers entry on it.
Yeah, well, and Kart for that matter too. Like all of them, it seems like it's due. Although, like you could argue that hasn't been a new Kart on Switch.
Do you think that you could get Do you think you could get away with because I do think they will need a new Kart on whatever it is. But do you think they could get away with for like one generation? We're just gonna do, hey, here's like an HD, not an HD version, but like a remaked version for like 4K.
Yeah,
for like Super Smash Brothers Ultimate.
That comes packed with all the DLC characters and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, there's something very exciting there about not paying $110 for Super Smash Brothers.
Do you think it's enough to like?
I don't know.
Would enough people want to? Yeah, I mean, it's a tough spot for so many of their franchises, or like those like this generation. They feel like they've come to their natural like peak, and so what comes next is a big question.
Mm-hmm.
Finally, it's
I want to stop on
go ahead.
Sakurai for one more second. He's also in his videos always been like a little bit of a stinker about Kid Icarus Uprising, and like boy, sure would love to see that come to modern consoles.
But would be super hard.
It would be super hard to do, but boy, would it be cool. Could that launch the Switch too? Bad idea, probably, right?
I think No, I don't think Kid
No,
Icarus
I mean,
Uprising
it
would
could
launch the Switch.
it could fit nicely in that like ARMS niche.
Yes,
Right.
yeah,
Of
totally.
like this comes out 40 days after the console comes
Uh-huh.
out, and like the hardcore are like, no, it's actually it's pretty good. Like I think it's fun.
Yeah,
I like using the motion controls.
I could also see it as like hey, we this Peach platformer game is out.
Yeah.
It's like May. We have new hardware coming in November.
Sure.
So hey, it's like July. Here's Kid Icarus Uprising for Switch.
Yeah, well, that is a great point. That like and Nintendo's been doing this throughout, so maybe there's no change here. But as we approach what we perceive to be the end of the Switch generation, do we expect the zone to just get flooded with more like ports of stuff?
Yeah, and I mean, we've kind of seen that this year a little bit with
Mario
like,
RPG
and remaster and
right.
like a Metroid Prime remastered and like that kind of stuff. So
right, Pikmin 1 and 2,
and there's rumors of an F-Zero remake, the GameCube game.
Right.
So it's
Luigi's Mansion next year.
exactly.
Yeah.
So it does feel like we've reached that point with the 3DS when it was at kind of like the last year of its real life.
Yeah.
And I feel like we're reaching that point with the Switch as well.
That is fascinating.
Finally, it is time for another Splatfest in Splatoon 3, or will be in a few days, not quite yet. The question posed is, which is most important to you? And the options are money, fame, and love.
So, previous Splatfests, where they only do two things, this versus this, have featured money versus love. This is the first time that they've thrown fame in there, too, as like a little bit of a spoiler.
For the influencer generation.
I mean, I still argue that you get enough fame and love and money will come to you.
Get enough money. Who needs the other two? The Splatfest kicks off.
Some ways we're different, I think.
Saturday, August 12th at 5 p.m. Pacific time and runs through Monday, 5 p.m. Pacific time. Also, we're about 1 month away from the 1-year anniversary of Splatoon 3. The game released on September 9th, 2022.
It surprises me how recent that is.
I know, yeah. And
it feels like we've had Splatoon 3 forever.
I know.
Do we have any information about when that DLC, the whatever it's called?
Like the story, the expansion one?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so. I thought maybe winter this year is when they promised it, but I actually can't remember if that's true or not.
We got to start a new like DLC watch. Like it seems like the between Pokemon and this that like are we going to be missing some dates here? Or, like it's probably just going to pop up and it'll be live and we'll be like,
yeah,
surprise.
Yeah, I think that's true. I also think that once we hit the 1-year anniversary, we're on the downslope for new Splatoon 3 content.
Oh, that's a good point
because they promised like 2 years of support.
Yeah. So 1 year left after. Oh, and then that puts us in 2024.
Right.
Just in time for a new launch in Splatoon 4. That's what's going to happen. Mark, where do you land on this money, fame, love?
Ooh, I feel like this one's hard. I especially when it's like framed like which is most important to you.
Well, how about just what you have to pick a song title that has one of those words in it.
I guess I'll go with love. I'll go with like Can't Buy Me Love.
And I'm going to go with David Bowie, Fame. All right, Mark, let's get out of the news. That is going to do it for this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society. Remember, you can join our Discord. All you gotta do is email us, and we will send you an invitation, and then you're in. Anthony DeLuca made our logo. Our theme music is provided by 8-Bit Betty. You can get more of his music by going to 8bitbetty.com or by listening right now. For my co-host, Mark Mitchell, this is Patrick Eller saying thank you for listening.